Blog Talk Radio.
Hi, and welcome to Conscious Talk Radio, and I am your host, Linda Summers, and we've got a wonderful show for you today. Our topic is Mindful Practices in Schools Are Creating Peaceful Attitudes with Gloria O'Shea. But before we get started in bringing her onto the show, I would like to give you some background information about Gloria O'Shea. She is married to Liam O'Shea since 1970, and they raised 3 children. Gloria went back to school after her kids were grown and graduated in 2001 from CSUM-SM in Business Administration and was a commencement speaker. She later worked for Magdalena Ike Family YMCA, one of the largest and most active YMCAs in the U.S., as a director of customer service, member relations, retention, and volunteers. After her son's fatal accident, Gloria resigned from her director position so she could run her son's yoga studio, Four Seasons Yoga in La Jolla. Since then, she has had training with Tim Miller, Pamela Hollander, 200 Yoga Alliance training, street yoga training with Mark Lilly for at-risk youth, and training with Niroga Institute in Berkeley. Her son Sean was such an inspiration to the community and everyone he met that she decided to keep his legacy going by creating the Sean O'Shea Foundation, a nonprofit 501c organization working to empower youth with positive tools and inspiring examples. Gloria is the founder and executive director of the Sean O'Shea Foundation, and she enjoys her free time with her family and her 6 grandkids. And with that, I'd like to welcome Gloria to the show. Hi, Gloria.
Hi, Linda. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you for joining us. And I believe we have someone else. We also have Dave Kemp and Giselle McGinnis who will be joining us. So we have someone else that just called in. Is this Dave or Giselle?
Hi, this is Dave.
Oh, hey, Dave. How are you?
Wonderful. Thank you for including us on your wonderful program.
You're so welcome. And so before we even get started, I'll just give you a little bit of information about Dave because he does play a role in the Sean O'Shea Foundation. Dave has a music company, DTO Music, and he composes and performs, teaches piano for yoga, weddings, and inspirational events to heal and awaken. He is also a school teacher that truly enjoys working with children. He loves to integrate music to enhance student learning. And his current Spanish teaching position is with kindergartners up to 6th graders at an elementary school in Encinitas. And his organization, Plant Powered Kids, offers yoga, nutrition, and music classes to the community. So thank you for your contribution and for joining the show as well.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So what I'd like to do, Gloria, what we're going to talk about today is teaching mindful practices that you're really doing with the Sean O'Shea Foundation that really bring in and tie in with what Dave is doing and with Giselle, which she hasn't joined us yet, but and she has the Yoga Rocks Park yoga studio in Carlsbad, and so that's how she is participating in this as well. So let's talk about, because we have a half an hour, so let's talk about the Sean O'Shea Foundation and really what that does.
Okay, yeah. Before we do, I just want to mention that Giselle is actually the San Diego organizational director for Yoga Rocks Parks. They're a national organization. So she's the one that organizes all the Yoga Rocks Parks in the San Diego County. So it's been awesome working with her. Let me start off by just telling you how it came about. Number one, I'm not a yoga teacher. I am now, but I wasn't at the time of my son's fatal car accident. So as I was running the studio, I started learning more about yoga, and I really liked what I started to hear from a lot of the clients and a lot of the teachers. There was a different kind of mentality, if you will, about the people. They were very mindful and kind, and they were very generous people. And it wasn't just because, I was Sean's mother. It was just the way they acted. There was just such a difference in them. And so when I started learning and training and practicing yoga, I started seeing a lot of changes even in myself. And I started realizing this is why Sean taught. He worked with the gang communities of the North County areas, and he worked in the school areas that were very low income. And he'd always come home and share his stories about, the changes he's starting to see in the kids. And it was quite exciting to listen to him talk about it. And so when we lost Sean in December of 2006, everyone kept saying, you got to keep his legacy going. But I kept saying, I'm not a yoga teacher. I'm a walker. I mean, I don't do yoga. I walk. And eventually that started changing, and when I started learning everything by running his studio, which I no longer run, I sold that so I could give all my focus to the Sean O'Shea Foundation. And that's how it pretty much came about. So we're just continuing what Sean started back in 2001. And the great thing about it was we had so many yoga teachers and school teachers and lawyers and everybody just coming out wanting to help out and get this running and started. And we started our first school in spring of 2008. Started off with 3 schools, elementary, middle school, and high school, and about 88 kids total. And now we're running about 3,000 children every semester. So
Wow.
through that very first pilot program, we realized that the community we're working with also needed nutrition. And so that's become a part of the curriculum. It's about 25% of the curriculum. And recently we just formed a nutrition team, which I'm really excited about, and we're going to start doing a lot more nutrition-wise, and not just working with the kids, but working with the parents as well, and posting healthy recipes and fun snacks, and just making fun eating food enjoyable again. Not just, kids tend to be like robots when they eat. And we want them to slow down and be mindful and really think about what they're eating. Where did it come from? Is it something that actually grew up a tree or a plant, or is it something that came from a warehouse? And that kind of education, food education, has really been making a real positive impact with the kids that we've been working with and their families.
Absolutely. So you talk about also yoga and meditation and music also play a role in this as well, because you mentioned about using the school dropout rate, which I think is amazing, and the referral notices encourage to stay in school, which can be a tough challenge.
Exactly. So I had to do some research before we actually started doing this, because I knew Sean was onto something really positive for the kids. So I started doing research, and it was quite depressing what I was finding out with the school dropout rate and the teenage suicide between the age of 12 and 24. It was just out of control. The dropout rate was the one that really concerned me the most, and also the angers and the fights and the gang communities. And so the more I studied about yoga and meditation and mindful practices, the more I realized these are areas that can really help the kids out. And then I started learning more from Dr. Dan Siegel, who's an incredible scientist, a neuroscientist that talks about the brain and how it has the right side and the left side, and how the 3 R's of the academics really just focus on the left side. But we need more 3 R's for the right side, like he talks about reflection, relationship, and resilience. And so those mindful techniques we're teaching the kids, which can be meditation or breathing techniques or yoga, is what helps them find that resilience, and what teaches them how to control their behavior, not necessarily be in charge of their own behavior. So if they're stressed out from too much homework, or trying to hit a home run on their baseball team, or all their chores and not getting them done on time, or having to take care of their siblings, or even listening to parents always arguing, these little techniques that we're teaching them, I call them the tools of peace, is what helps them maintain their own behavior, and pulls them out of that rut of being unhappy and being stressed out and even being unhealthy, because stress can cause 92% of our chronic illnesses are caused from stress, and our kids are already feeling it. So that was very important for us to bring that to the kids that we work with. And we do work with at-risk communities, because they don't have the funds for programs like this. And most of the schools that we work with are in very poor communities without a budget that can afford any extracurricular programs. And so we have given scholarships in the last, since 2008, we've given over 13,000 scholarships to the children in the schools.
Oh, my gosh. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, talk about rebuilding their confidence as well.
Yes.
And their self-esteem. Yep. When doing all this really helps them. And I know, elementary and the teenage years, that really is an important time in their life. Not that younger isn't, but, that's really where it all begins, is when they're younger.
Exactly. And there's not a lot of programs out there. It would be great if everybody can create a foundation and work with all their local schools. But right now there's just a few that are really doing the work, like Quiet Time and the Naroga Institute and the Sean O'Shea Foundation and the Mind Up that is run by Goldie Hawn. And some of them just work with meditation, some of them work with meditation, breathing, some of them do all three. The Narogo Institute, which is run by B.K. Bose, Dr. B.K. Bose, who's my hero, he was like my mentor before when I was first getting into something I wasn't really familiar with. And he had been starting something similar to what we're doing 5 years before we even started. And he has all the research, years and years in research. Quiet time, for example, which is strictly a transcendental meditation where the kids stop 2 or 3 times a day during school and meditate. They have over 340 published scientific studies that document its effectiveness in improving health and learning in school. Things like 65% decrease in violent conflict, 86% reduction in suspensions, or reduced ADHD symptoms. I mean, that's fantastic. 40% reduction in psychological distress, anxiety, and depression. You talk about suicide. Depression is the number one cause of it. So it's got a full circle of what it can deal with and who it can deal with. And, there's nothing out there that's 100% guaranteed, but nothing has been as productive as programs like these that go into the schools and work with children and teaching them how to use peaceful tools to calm their nerves and to prepare them for just about anything that's out there.
Right. Now, how responsive were they? Because here you're bringing yoga, breath, meditation into school or even to any, program, and
right.
it was so unusual that how was the response from these kids?
Well, it's a whole different way of teaching when you're talking about elementary and even the middle school kids. It's a whole different way of teaching. We have to really make it almost entertaining and more enjoyable. It's not like when you walk into the studio where people are paying to be there and they have a purpose already. These kids are learning, what can the purpose be? Why am I here? I'm curious. I want to know more about this. And I'd say curiosity is the biggest thing why the kids are there. They've been hearing about this. It's on every commercial. It's on TV. We read about it. I want to know what it's like. And so we have them come in, but we get them to understand right away those brain changes we talked about using Dr. Siegel's hand models. So they understand the brain, they understand how it works, and they understand when they're getting ready to flip their lid, they're able to identify that that's happening, and then they're able to reflect and use one of the peace tools to help them bring that back down and feel more normal about how to react to everything.
Right.
So it's been very successful. I've had a few teachers that say, they may start off with 35 kids, and at the end of the year they only have 20. I said, we need to do more in that class. You're not doing enough to keep those kids entertained and interested. And if the teacher doesn't make it about them, the children, they will lose them. So it's constantly. We train our teachers twice a year for our orientation. It's an intense 4.5-hour orientation, and we teach them the do's and don'ts, and we draw a line. We don't allow any religion whatsoever in our classes. We don't even use the word Sanskrit. We don't Om. We don't do any of the chanting prayers. It's quite different. What we've done is we've taken the tools that we can use that we feel would be best for the kids and can be used in public schools without parents getting upset, without school getting upset. And over the last 8.5 years and working with over 13,000 children, we have never had a complaint from a parent or a school or, well, I would say even a child, but you might have a child that says, I don't want to do this today, or we have adults that say that. So, so it's really a skill that the teachers have to learn how to keep the kids interested in this. And we end up sometimes adding some games in there, the Follow the Leader or the Simon Says, or something that would keep them interested in it. And once they learn a full sequence, then they're starting to understand. And believe me, when it comes to the resting pose, these kids are awesome. They have their sweatshirts. Some of them bring towels. They look forward to that resting pose, and they'll just cover themselves up completely, and they're gone for a good 5 minutes. They're just listening to some beautiful music we'll be playing in the background, and that's it. And they come out of it, and they go to their teachers. They'll be hugging our teachers goodbye. See you next week. They're all excited about it. That's what we like to see, kids that are really enjoying what they're doing, and they want to come back each week.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of music, Dave, that's really kind of where you come in because, kids love music anyway. So I'm sure with the music, because I've heard some of your music, and it's absolutely beautiful. So can you give us just a little brief, like how you feel and how you feel that your music has really helped these kids as well? We might not have Dave on. Maybe Dave just stepped away for a bit. Well, I'm sure music, because music is such a value, and it really speaks to a lot of different people. So,
well, you know what I
I
always
think
tell my teachers during the orientation, I always tell them it's extremely important you use music, and music is extremely powerful because it can make or break your class. And just like a movie, you know, if it's a great song, that movie's going to make it to the top. And so we always tell our teachers, really have a really good set of music to set to the kids. And we always tell our teachers, don't go wild and crazy with, you know, Indian music. Something, too much cultural change is just going to turn them off. So go slowly and listen, give them more classical type music, you know, new age type music, something without words, because you want them to focus on what's going on in their head, not what the words of the songs are saying. And so music has been extremely important in our programs. And David is he's probably one of the most compassionate young men I've met since my son Sean. He's so kind, and he gives so much back to the community. So,
oh, thank you, Gloria.
You're welcome.
Oh, there you are. We thought we lost you for a minute. So I was asking you, can you give us a brief just information, like how your role plays in this? We know it's through music, but how does how do you feel it really gives these kids the positive, the feel good? Because your music is amazing.
Thank you so much. And I'd like to start out by saying that I come from a family of educators, and when you're with youth, there's a variety of backgrounds and different home lives that we're not always present to. And what Sean did, is Gloria spoke about earlier, is work with people that don't always get the attention in our society. And the fact that there's a whole range of children that are exposed to a lot of different types of music these days. As Gloria mentioned, if you're using too traditional of music, then they're going to think that this is not for them. And what I love to do is integrate more 21st century contemporary sounds that children are familiar with and teenagers. And then I bring in some of the mantras and Sanskrit, and I make it cool. So everyone that listens to it says, wow, that sounds great. And it makes me want to move my body and get into these poses. And if I'm going to be told to, you know, get into scorpion pose or frog pose or whatever it is, especially with little ones, when you say, you're a frog, get in frog pose and make it fun. And you have the music that accompanies it, then it really energizes the children for them to be inspired. And, you know, specifically the fact that I worked at a high school for 8 years, and you know, my future plans are to get back into high school teaching. Currently, as you mentioned with my introduction, I'm in elementary school, and you know, teenagers are wanting to fit in, and when you feel like you don't fit in, it's important for me to create music, and that's what I've done with my yoga soundtrack, is to come to a place where it fits the space, it fits something where everyone thinks like, wow, this is actually really cool music. And we all know that music changes over time, and but yoga consistently has stayed very much with the times as well, although it brings a lot of the ancient wisdom and practices. And as what really is profound for me is when Gloria mentioned that when her son came home and would say, wow, look at what happened today when I was working with these gang members, and all of a sudden their disposition's a lot more positive and they feel more peace. That's really what he was saying ultimately. And for us to be peacemakers and peacekeepers in the world, and for me, I'm creating life-enhancing music that finds that place within us all where we can have a sense of being home and at peace. And that's the beauty of yoga, and that's really why I'm so inspired to work with the Sean O'Shea Foundation, and this will be my third event. And every time it's just been such an honor to be involved.
Well, we thank you. That's awesome. And music is such a way to really tap into the soul, and it really does open up the heart, and it really does connect people. So I think it's incredible, and so thank you for your work in that.
You're welcome.
I'd like to, Giselle's not on the call, and I was kind of wondering how, Gloria, you connected with Giselle as well, because if you, there was the yoga studio over in La Jolla that he was working with, but now she's working with the Yoga Rocks Parks in Carlsbad, San Diego Carlsbad.
Right. Well, I was very familiar with Yoga Rocks the Park because one of our past board members used to be very active with them. And when I saw the article that she was the new program director for the San Diego County, I contacted her right away and asked her if they would consider allowing the Shawna Shea Foundation to be one of the beneficiaries of one of their many classes. And then she read some background on us, and before I knew it, she was saying, let's go ahead and just make this finale one a benefit for the Shawna Shea Foundation, which I don't think they've ever done in San Diego before. Usually they just give 5 or 10% of the net profit. So this is really big for not only Yoga Rocks the Park, but for the foundation as well, that they're going to donate all the proceeds from this event to the Shawna Shea Foundation, which is going to be used directly to the children's programs in the at-risk communities that we work with. So I was very thrilled about this, and we're hoping to have a lot of vendors out there. We're hoping for a really large crowd. Any of the parents that sign up their children to also take the children's class that goes on at the same time as the adult class will receive Shawna Shea Foundation backpack with a T-shirt and a water bottle. It's like a $25 value. So they will get that free just for signing up and taking the children's class. And we're going to have big raffles out there. And, DTO is going to be playing his live music during the class. And Michael Fukumura, who's an old friend of Sean's, is going to be coming out and leading the class. He's very well known in the San Diego County as a yoga teacher trainer. He does workshops all over the county, and he's a very popular yoga teacher. So I think everybody that comes out is going to be really happy with the music and the yoga teacher. So I'm excited.
And this is for the Yoga Rocks the Park, the event that's happening Sunday, September 13th, correct?
Exactly.
Yes.
This is the finale.
Yeah. Where is it being held at? Gloria, where's it being held at? At the Yoga Rocks?
Cannon Park in Carlsbad.
Okay, Cannon Park in Carlsbad, so people will listen.
And it's an outdoor event. Yeah, and that's one thing I'll mention about Yoga Rocks the Park. They don't have a physical studio. They actually offer yoga different the summer season. And that's one of the beauties of this event is you mix outdoor yoga practice with live musicians as well as this beautiful event coming up September 13th. It's going to have the Shawna Shea Foundation benefit from all the donations that are provided on that day, and that's what Yoga Rocks the Park does. And it's a global company, and they have different regions. For example, I'm actually going out to Salt Lake City this weekend to perform for Yoga Rocks the Park, and so they have a Salt Lake City region, they have Kansas City, and San Diego is, as Gloria mentioned, is what Giselle recently started running, and she's done a fantastic job, and I performed at the opening day, and then I'll be doing the September 13th closing day. And so as Gloria mentioned, as a fantastic yoga instructor, and really what Yoga Rocks Park does is they find the best of the best out there, and Michael is absolutely a phenomenal instructor.
It'll be a great event, so anybody that's listening, we can tie into that. And I'll also have all the information on the video as well. So, Gloria, because you also mentioned about going into schools and for a football team that's actually has taken on this program as well, which I think is also amazing. And then also I want to talk about
go ahead.
The Radiant Children Hospital as well, that you're working with the cancer program.
Children with Cancer, yes, we are. We have been for over 4 years, and that's really a program that really kicked off well. And we're there 3 days a week. I'm hoping one day to get a corporate funder to donate like $10,000 so that we can start paying these teachers, because we call them our dream team because they're all volunteers. But as you know, the turnover rate's pretty bad sometimes when they're always volunteers, especially when you work with children with cancer. It's not an easy thing, because you just want to hug these kids and just, make them well again. But these kids are unbelievable. The hospital's been very supportive. They're very happy to have us there, and we've been there, like I said, for over 4 years now. So we walk in every Monday, every Wednesday, every Saturday. We work with the kids for anywhere from 2 to 4 hours. We work with the siblings, and we work with the parents. And we might have a child who hasn't slept in quite a few days, and our teacher will go in there, instead of doing yoga, we'll just do some meditation or even some breathing exercises with some great music, which Dave, I need to talk to you about that. We need more great music for the hospitals. But anyways, she'll be with them for 5 or 10 minutes, and next thing you know, the little kid's snoring away, and it's wonderful. And we look at the mother, and she's got tears in her eyes because she hasn't seen her child sleep in 3 days. And if the child doesn't sleep, the parents aren't sleeping either. So it's a wonderful program that helps not just the child with cancer, but also their siblings and their family. And we hope to build that program and make it strong. It'd be great if we could be there 7 days a week. That would be our dream, to be there 7 days a week for these kids. And then, what was the other thing you had mentioned that you wanted?
Well, I was asking about the kids, because the football teams. You're working with the football team as well.
We've been working with Los Altos High School. We started last year, and the coach had us come in right after the varsity season ended. And the guys really liked it. There were like 65 varsity football players. This year, the varsity coach asked us to continue working with his boys through the football season, which we've never done because usually they don't want nothing to interfere with their practice or anything. But no, he asked us to come in and work through the season as well. It was a very young team last year, and also it was the first year for this coach. They took it all the way to CIF. They didn't win the final game, but everybody was just amazed that they took it that far. So I'm really excited to be working with them again.
Wow.
This is also the high school my son graduated from, and it's also the high school I graduated from. So there's a lot of alumni background back there. But we are available for any of the high schools that want us here. We've also worked for the Oceanside cheerleaders. We did their cheer camp, and the coach said she was so excited because there's so many injuries during their cheer camp week, and she said the coach said the same thing for the high school boys. Injuries are decreasing dramatically just because they're learning how to be more mindful in what they're doing when they're lifting weights or when they're throwing the girls up in their basket tosses or whatever. So it's really helped out that way. But we also work with, at-risk communities, and we work with kids that are at the school. It depends. They say that they want us to come in. It's what they want to do. They might say, we want this program because we want to reward these kids for being so good. Or another school might say, we want this program because these kids just don't know how to behave and they're having behavioral problems, and we want you to come work with them. So it's like opposite ends. We get them for all kinds of reasons, whether it's sports or behavioral problems or because they do so well in school. I know Encinitas has been doing this for quite a few years now. My granddaughter is at Capri, and she started at kindergarten, and she's going into third grade now, and this girl can do a back bend and everything like it's nothing for her. It's so exciting to see that.
And you are looking for donations, I'm assuming, right? So people can get in touch with you. You have all the information on the video. And then upcoming events, that's going to be Yoga Rocks at Yoga Rocks the Park, September 13th.
Yoga Rocks the Park is the big one. We also do training. We do have a training coming up. It's called Calm Kids Training for School Teachers, School Psychologists, or any professionals work for children. This is actually going to be a free training on September 28th or October 5th. They can pick either date. All they have to do is email me and tell me they want to come, and they're in. It's going to be held at the Encinitas Community Center.
Wonderful. And then you have the Empowering Youth Project, which will be Tuesday, October 27th. And
yes, we're looking for captains, so if anybody would like to help us raise funds and come to our big kickoff rally on October 27th, this is our biggest fundraiser of the year. Without this, we cannot have our program, so we have to be successful in the Empowering Youth Project.
Wonderful. So if anybody wants to donate, we'll have all that information on the video.
Yeah.
And so one last question. What would be one thing that you could share with the listeners in regards to this whole, the conversation we're having with the Sean O'Shea Foundation and really helping children to have a much more peaceful life and attitude and just really come from a different space? What would be one thing you'd want to share with the listeners?
Well, for me, I would say every day when they listen to the news and they hear about all these suicide rates and dropout rates and violence and so forth, think about programs like the Sean O'Shea Foundation, and not just ours, but all of them, and the work that they're doing, and do something to get involved. Do something to get involved. Either become a volunteer, become a donor, spread the word, but do your part. These kids don't belong to us. They belong to all of us, and that would be my suggestion.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. We thank you so much for being on the show, Gloria and Dave. Thank you so much for your contribution, and for Giselle as well. I know she's not on the call with us, but we thank her as well for being a part of this amazing, foundation. And thank you, Gloria, for continuing for your son. We really greatly appreciate it.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you so much. You absolutely rock.
Yeah, thank you.
You do.
Thank you. We want to thank all the listeners who are out there who joined us today and the ones who will be joining us afterwards via YouTube. We thank you so much. Please follow, subscribe, comment, and like, and please donate to this amazing foundation. You'll have all the information on our video, and you can join me next Thursday for our next show, Success and Love, From Self-Love to Deep Lasting Love with Annette Paris. So thank you all again. Appreciate you guys so much for what you're doing. You're really just making a difference in the world, and that's what it's about. And these kids are our future. So thank you so much for your contribution.
Yes. Hope to see everybody
You're welcome.
at the Yoga Rocks Park.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.